Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Overwatch's Uprising event, going for the Handle with Care achievement. This one's going to be able to be done anytime the mission is going to be available in the arcade. It is going to have to be done in Uprising story mode, so make sure you pick that. It has to be done on a bare minimum of hard difficulty, so make sure you also select that. You are limited to the story mode characters, so Tracer, Torbjorn, Reinhardt, and Mercy. So make sure you get a pretty good team together to get this done with. You are going to have to get through the beginning of the mission, so make sure you capture all 3 of the hacking points, and then once you capture the 3rd and final one at the church, you're going to head over to the payload, and then we're going to try to set up the achievement. The achievement is going to ask for you to escort the payload all the way to the end of the mission, with it having at least 80% health intact on hard difficulty or higher in story mode. So payload's going to be right here. What you want to do is make sure you try to clean up any stragglers before you get started on it. You don't start the payload defense until all 4 people are on it, so you can take your time right here and make sure you get everyone healed up. Also, during this time, what you want to do is make sure you have the Torbjorn player head into the buildings behind you. He's going to take the little walkway and then get into this building right here. They should pop a turret down in that little window, and that's going to give it a nice little spot to help out. Then once everyone's ready, everyone's going to hop on the point. This is going to be the setup. Mercy's going to stand at the back of the payload. Then you're going to want to have the Tracer player go over to the back right corner to flank the enemies. And Reinhardt is going to do the bulk of the shielding for the payload. Torbjorn is going to get buffed by the Mercy at all times, which should also increase his turret damage. And then the Torbjorn player is going to shoot from the front, Tracer's going to shoot from the back, and the turret is going to shoot in from the side. You're going to be dealing with 3 types of normal enemies. The first 2 types aren't going to be able to damage the payload, so you shouldn't worry about them too much, which are going to be the regular troopers as well as the eradicators. The only thing that can hurt the payload of the normal enemies are going to be the slicers, who are going to be the small guys who shoot lasers at you. So the key to doing well in this is to basically have the Reinhardt player keep his shield up in the direction where the bulk of the slicers are, and then the Torbjorn and the Tracer are going to work on picking off the stragglers from the opposite side. Mercy is going to want to switch on and off of healing once things get a little more chaotic. Thankfully, Tracer and Torbjorn are going to have 2 very good alternatives to healing, which are going to be Tracer's Rewind and Torbjorn's Overload. Once Reinhardt's shield starts to go down, the Reinhardt can also switch to offense as he tries to recharge it, so that's also going to be a key to doing well in on this. Once you get past the 3-minute mark, you're going to get the start of the scripted events. The first one is going to be at 2 minutes and 52, where you get the first bomb that drops in from the left side. Now, the bomb is going to do a significant amount of damage to the payload if it does get here all the way. So for that first bomb, I'm going to recommend Torbjorn use his ultimate to try to take it out, and then everyone's just going to focus their attention on it to try to destroy it before it gets here. You have another bomb coming in from the right at 2 minutes and 32. You definitely want to make sure you use Reinhardt's ultimate to try to whittle it down. You can, of course, if in a pinch, use Reinhardt's charge in order to pin the bomb against the wall, and that way you can stun the bomb for a bit, which should buy you a little extra time to try to hopefully damage it. So try to get rid of the bombs as quickly as possible and make sure everyone gets back to the payload to try to defend it. At 1 minute and 52, we're going to have our first Bastion turret that spawns. Thankfully, the Bastion turrets aren't going to be able to damage the payload, however, they are going to do a significant amount of damage to the players if left unattended. So the first Bastion is going to pop up from a random lane. Make sure everyone's keeping an eye out for it and make sure someone calls for it and what side it's going to be on. Then everyone's going to try to unload on it and then take care of it. The Reinhardt player is definitely going to want to stay back whenever a Bastion spawns because he's going to be the main defense as everyone else focuses on taking out the Bastion. You have another one who's going to drop in at 1 minute and 24, again from a random lane, so make sure you keep an eye out for it and make sure someone calls out for it. If Torbjorn's turret goes down in the window, he can move it to the top of the payload, and that's going to be a good backup spot, especially for late in the wave. Now, if the Bastion is giving the team a significant amount of trouble because no one has their ultimate, you can have the Reinhardt player attack the Bastion if the front of the payload is going to be clear of any slicers. So make sure you use that as a last resort, and you should be able to take care of it a-okay. 54 seconds, you're going to get the 3rd bomb. It's always going to appear on the left. Make sure the Torbjorn player gets over there and gets ready to use his ultimate to try to weaken it. Then everyone's going to pick it off from a distance. And again, if the Reinhardt player is available, make sure you use the charge to pin it against the wall. Then we're going to get a Bastion in at 44 seconds. Make sure you keep an eye out for it and then call for it when it does pop up. And then everyone's going to turn their focus on it. So just make sure you try to get it before it starts dealing a significant amount of damage to the team. You are going to have a bomb that pops up at 19 seconds. This one is always going to come in from the left side, so make sure the Torbjorn player has his ultimate ready and make sure he heads over there and cuts off the bomb before it can even get close. Of course, you do have Reinhardt's charge as a great backup. Try to be a little careful when charging the bombs on the left side, though. You definitely don't want to overextend the Reinhardt, as he is going to have a longer time to get back. And then once you take care of that bomb, you just want to run the clock out. You do have a Bastion drop at 17 seconds, although if you can get the timer to 0, that should destroy every enemy who's still on the board. So as long as you run the clock out, you should be good for that first part, and then we can move on to the second half of the achievement, which is going to be the Payload Escort. So just make sure you try to have Torbjorn move his turret onto the payload. That way you have something that's watching it the whole time. And then everyone's going to basically try to push this thing up. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you try to look for where the first tank bastion spawns. It can appear in a number of locations, so make sure everyone stays very vigilant for it and make sure everyone calls it out when they do see it. It can appear from either the front or the back of the payload, as well as the little staircase from the side. Once someone notices it, what you want to do is you want to make sure you have the Reinhardt player take position and then pop his shield between it and the payload, and then everyone's just going to try to unload and get rid of the tank bastion as soon as possible before it can do any significant amount of damage to the payload. Once the payload rounds this corner right here, you're going to have a bomb drop in from behind. You want to make sure you keep one person up front to defend the front of the payload from any slicers. The Torbjorn player is going to head to the back, drop his ultimate to hopefully take care of the bomb. Tracer and the Mercy player can both help out as well, and then hopefully get rid of that bomb before it can damage the backside of the payload. Then you're going to have a brief break in the fire until you round this next corner right here. You want to be a little careful as the next tank bastion is about to drop, so make sure everyone stays vigilant for him. Watch out for the enemies who are going to start popping up from behind as well. And then once you notice that tank bastion show up, everyone is going to want to try to focus on it while also trying to keep an eye out on the payload. Hopefully the payload is going to be at least in its high 80s at this point. That way you can make the final push across this corner. Once you round the last corner, Reinhardt's going to drop his shield right here, which should take care of a bulk of the street coverage. And then everyone's just going to back up, trying to pick off things safely from behind Reinhardt's shield. Once you round that last corner, the last tank bastion should appear, so make sure you stay super vigilant for him, especially if he appears on this side of the payload. Make sure you keep an eye out for that, and make sure you move the Reinhardt player into a proper position in order to shield the payload from the tank bastion. Everyone's going to try to take it out as quickly as possible, and then we're just going to mop up the stragglers as the payload gets to the door. So make sure you just hold this last point, and you should be good for it as long as it has enough health. So that's how you are going to do it. It's going to take a lot of practice to get this down, but if you can deliver it with 80% or more health on hard or higher, you should be good for the achievement. 15 gamer score, and that's all there is to it.